Drew and Fuse Show, the Drew and Fuse Show. They clean up nicely. It's the Drew and Fuse Show, the Drew and Fuse Show, the Drew and Fuse Show. Yeah, they clean up nicely. Yeah.
We are back. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
How's it going? Daft Punks, thanks for joining us. We got a bunch of new merch, dude, in the store. You see all that?
I seen it all. I seen it. Seen all the new merch.
You uploaded it, so I'm sure you did see it. But there's some good stuff in there. You guys go over, hit the merch store. There's some
less than $25 for a Daft's t-shirt. I mean, basically Walmart pricing.
Support the cause. I like it.
Yeah, we if you buy one t-shirt, we get $4. So,
woo!
Yeah, it's transparent here. We're transparent.
Is that even a double in and out?
I don't know. I don't have in and out here.
Oh, well,
I'm not familiar with prices,
I
but
think
it's enough for one cheese coney at Skyline Chili. They're $3.79.
There it is.
Are you a double guy though?
Yeah, of course.
Roderick Phillips. That's the triple stack.
No, that's too much. Dub all day. In fact, you're making my mouth water. I'm kind of thinking that's what I might have to have for lunch.
All right, podcast over. Close his laptop. Gets in the car.
Going for lunch. Yeah, I don't got much for this one.
Got much?
I got a lot for our guest, but I don't got much for the intro.
Yeah, we got a guest today. We've got a guest. It's a guest episode. And with that being said, let's get into it. All right, a little introduction. He's played clubs in over 30 different countries. He's been featured and photographed in over 12 international music magazines. He learned to play more than 6 instruments before he was 12 years old. He's got production credits that range from George Clinton to the DOC, Erotic D. He's done remixes of Erykah Badu, Limp Bizkit, Daddy Yankee, UB40, Drake, Marshmello, and more. He helped develop Final Scratch, which obviously led to kind of the Serato era. He currently works with DOS Audio. Please help us welcome DJ B-Side.
Thank you.
How's it going?
Good. I'm here in warm, sunny Miami.
Okay, that's what we were going to ask. I was like, I know he's got a 305 area code, but I don't know if that's where he is or if that's what's going on.
Oh, yeah. I've moved here and there, but I keep coming back to Florida. It's actually too cold, I think, for me to live anywhere else but here, San Diego, or out of the country.
Love it.
So how long have you as well?
How long have you been in Miami this run?
I came here in 99 and I was here until about 2006, 2008. I went to London for a few years. A year and a half, actually, and then came back because it was too daggone cold. Didn't like the food that much, and I was here for like another four years, and then ended up having to move to Nashville to keep my job. That was interesting because this was before Nashville actually had like DJs and clubs.
Right.
I mean, they were there, but it's like 2 clubs back then.
Right.
Now there's a DJ in every bar in Nashville, but back then it was just bands. Everyone was like, "Oh, it's country music." It wasn't country music. It was just not a DJ friendly city back then.
Right.
Now it's completely different. And I moved back to Florida this time in 2014.
Okay, so you've been down there a while now.
Yeah. But
Cool. We're gonna get started with a little rapid fire questions, just to kind of break the ice here. I'm gonna roll a video.
Shakira here. Welcome to the Drew and Fuse Show. It is now time for the rapid fire. They will be be shooting off questions so fast. I mean, faster than my hips when they are telling the truth during my halftime performance at the Super Bowl. It is now time for rapid fire.
Okay. I studied.
Faster than her hips when they're telling the truth because those hips don't lie.
Don't lie.
All right. So the first one is turntables or CDJs.
Turntables if we got them, and they work.
All right.
And they work.
Pi-
That's the key. Are you
Yeah,
on
if they
phase?
work.
Are you rocking the phase, or are you interested in the new phase? I'm sorry, I'm going to digress for a little bit because everyone that was the hot topic here at this past NAM.
Yeah, it was the hot topic at NAM, but unless I'm getting an endorsement or working them off, I'm not sure I'm going to spend that much just for some lights and screens that I can look at myself. It's like,
Right.
unless there's an overhead cam, like really, the old one
Right.
works just as well for me. So I'm going to say I'm a phase guy because turntables half the time the needles are either jacked up, the tone arms are jacked up. Phase is totally stable.
Yeah.
I prefer moving platters. There's something about a moving platter. So the Rain Performer or the Rev 7 are equally as attractive as turntables. So now when you say turntables are CDJs, I got to say, well, if I can get a Rain Performer or a Rev 7, I'll take that.
Right.
Right.
So that brings me to the next question: Pioneer or Rain?
That's a tough one. Ooh, that's a tough one. It really depends on if we're talking controller or CDJs and how long I'm playing. That's what it almost boils down to for me. If I'm doing a set for like more than 2 hours, I'm going to want to have all the flexibility and the ability to do 3-4 decks if I can. And I like having actual decks that I can move, not just a virtual decks. So
Mhm.
it's kind of hard to say. It really depends on how long I play. I tend to gravitate to the effects, routing, and layout of the Pioneer just because it's the standard and it's everywhere. And I had to
Right.
basically work with that and get my style and flow in that direction.
Mhm.
With that said, the recent Performer has stepped up big time for the flow. I was not a fan of the Rain 1 because I didn't like the way the effects were routed. That was like
Right.
a deal breaker for me.
Every time I plug in a Rain, I feel like there's major issues. So I'm always I'm always frustrated with those Rains. But yeah. Anyways.
What's your favorite genre of music to DJ?
Techno polka. No, I'm just joking.
Love.
I would say that's really hard. I'm gonna say believe it or not, I'm more of a house head. As much as I love like old school hip hop and R&B, which is making a comeback, I still gravitate to house in all formats of house, like deep house, funky house, electro house, progressive house. Disco house, pop house, you name it. Like house is to me more diverse than hip hop is.
Amen.
So that also is another reason why I'm gonna say if I had to choose, the stranded island thing, you gotta, you can only choose one. I'm gonna say house because I can go in so many different directions and touch so many other different genres of music by still playing house.
And then when you're not DJing, what do you like to listen to? Or do you listen to music? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you listen to books? What do you like to listen to?
It's funny. For years, I was, believe it or not, a jazz guy. If I wasn't like curating or trying to hear what's new or checking out mixers or songs or whatnot, in my car, it would, believe it or not, it would be NPR or jazz.
Okay.
And that's still true for the most part, but with a lot of the streaming platforms, it's easy to go down a rabbit hole. That's how I discovered the group Jungle, because I was listening to something else and then that came up and I'm like, whoa, what's this? This is cool. And next thing you know, I'm hearing it in the back of all the different video game soundtracks and commercials and all
They
this
just got
kind of stuff.
they just got a residency in Vegas. I can't think they're doing a DJ set. I want to say it's at Excess, but I don't know.
Well, we're gonna have to check it out then.
Yeah, I'd like to check it out for sure. I love them.
All right.
Yeah.
Ice Cube or Snoop Dogg? You have to pick one.
Oh man. if you would have asked me, this is where the time comes in. If you would have asked me this prior to this year, I probably would have said, I don't know, both of them. And you know what? Can I have somebody else? I don't want to pick either one of them.
We can pass on this question because the next question is Calvin Harris or Tiesto.
Calvin. As
Okay.
much as I love Tiesto and what he's done, and met him at early in his career. Used to see him with headphones when I was with Stanton. He used to throw
Okay.
out his headphones at the end of every gig. He would
Wow.
swirl them around like rodeo style and throw them out. So we gave him probably about a good 80 headphones in 1 year when I was with Stanton. Cool guy. Really respect what he's done career-wise, but Calvin to me is just a different stratosphere because he touches so many different styles.
Right.
And he's so smooth in what he does. Is, like I hear a Tiesto track, I can go, yeah, I can tell how much of it he produced versus other producers or ghost producers or whatnot.
Right.
And I know that's a touchy subject, but that's why I think Calvin's gonna be my choice, because he can do a
I
lot of
agree.
different stuff, and I can tell it's him involved sometimes, but there's a lot of times I'm surprised, and like he sings. A lot of people don't
Right.
know he sings.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean? Like he sings, he writes. It's not just a DJ producer. So I'm gonna be on the Calvin train for that answer.
Do you drink alcohol?
I used to. Now I've cut back to wine
Hmm.
and special occasions, like very special occasions.
Yeah.
I'm originally from New Orleans, so it's kind of hard to not drink alcohol if you're born in New Orleans. I mean, I was like 10 years old going up to the daiquiri shop or the Hurricane Shelf in French Quarter and getting drinks. 10,
Yeah.
12 years old. Like, seriously. Get it for your
Believe
uncle
it.
and drink it halfway before you get to pass it to him,
How long have you been DJing?
Ooh, that's a long one. 86.
86. All right.
That's
And
when I say officially.
are you still currently gigging like more than once a week, or how
I
often
do-
are you
I-
playing?
I do monthlies. I typically do, I'll do at least maybe 2 to 4 gigs a month, but I try to make sure I do a monthly club gig. I do a lot of private and corporate stuff now.
Mhm.
Clubs to me dried up a few years ago, and that was before the pandemic. And then after, I went in pretty hard because Florida opened up. Florida didn't give a F. We
Yep.
was outside, inside for a long time, and I did that pretty hard for like a good 8 months straight every Friday at the same spot, and I enjoyed it. It kept me sharp, but it also did burn me out a little bit. So I had to kind of take a step back and say, okay, let's curate a monthly house event or a monthly dance party. So I do a monthly event, and then I try to do like private and corporate events. So usually one club underground thing, one mainstream once a month. I'm happy. If I can do 2
That's
gigs a month, I'm cool.
All right. So this is a question we like to ask everybody, and don't think of it in terms of a chain, but if we came to Miami, where would
Mhm.
you take us to eat that you could only get in Miami?
It's probably going to be the spot on the corner, like the Cuban spot. You can find other places that have Cuban food, but not like Miami. There's a couple of spots. There's a good Puerto Rican spot, and then there's a good Cuban spot that I've not found anywhere outside of Miami. So it's definitely going to be like the local.
We're
Latin
just
food.
getting a sandwich, or is there like a specific meal?
I love a Cuban sandwich. So
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you can't go wrong with a Cuban sandwich. I am not a
Maybe
beef
that's
or
what I'm
pork
getting.
guy,
Yeah.
so my selections are a little bit limited. I can't really do the Cuban sandwich. I don't eat ham or pork, beef. But for me, it's the pollo a la plancha, the beefsteak de pollo, which is a nice, like pounded down breast or fillet of chicken,
Mhm.
very well marinated, like slightly blackened or charred on the edges, on the outside, and very juicy with black beans and rice. That's kind of like your traditional Cuban
Yeah.
meal for me.
Love it. It's making me hungry.
I know. I'm like, I think I might just change in and out to that now.
Definitely. That's a good go-to. And then there's a couple of Dominican and Puerto Rican spots that you can get mofongo, and that's something you just cannot get. Like I'd say, probably outside of South Florida or New York, you don't find mofongo very well prepared, and that's kind of harder to explain. You have to Google the mofongo if you don't know what mofongo is, but it's definitely good.
I want to change my name to DJ Mofongo.
DJ Mofongo, right? It doesn't sound.
All right, this is a new question we're asking, and don't overthink it. But it's the end of the night. You're at the gig. What's the last song you're gonna play? And I know it could be different context if you're at a bar or club, but over the years, if there's a song you like to end on.
It depends on where I am, because like I say, I jump all over the place. So, oh man, that's really tough, because I'm one of those people. I'd never really do a set. I never really plan sets, and I just kind of go where the night and the vibe takes me. And the ending song will be kind of whatever I'm feeling at that exact moment. So that I don't really have a particular ending song. I will do something out of what I call my last call library, or my last call folder. And there's probably about a good 12 last call songs in there. And actually, one of them, oh goodness, it's a shame I can't remember the band. I was in a band, and we had a song called Last Call, and I did all the cuts and scratches in that song. And I'm gonna have to now. That's a shame. I can't even remember the band. But I believe it or not, I bust that out sometimes, and people go, "Wow, this is a dope song. I never heard of this." I'm like, "Yeah, it was an underground band."
That's cool.
I like that.
Let's see here. The future of DJing. I'm going to combine these two questions, and these aren't so rapid fire. But where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years, and where do you see the future of DJing?
So 5 to 10 years, hopefully still in the game. I don't ever see myself stopping, man. I've been at it too long. It's in my blood. And as long as I can get up and turn whatever the device on is and play music, I'm going to do it. If it gets to the point where I'm in a wheelchair and I can't do nothing but think, attach whatever it is to my head, and I'll let AI help me get where I need to go. A lot of people hate on it. And honestly, I think at some point that might be the route for a lot of us. You think about people who are disabled. I had a friend that he only had one arm, and he was a beast DJ with one arm. So I'm grateful. I'm healthy, and I hope I remain healthy enough to keep DJing. I just want to be able to keep playing and keep surprising people with music.
I was telling Fuse that I might need to get an avatar, like somebody to just to perform for me, and I'll create the sets, and I go send the avatar out. It could be, hot.
The avatar is going to be 25 years old, washboard abs, and, a pretty face.
Yeah, there you go. I'll have an earpiece and be like, "Hey, play this, do this."
Be Drew 4.0.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And then anything else about the future of DJing? You mentioned some AI. Do you see anything else shaping that's going to change or shape the DJ community?
Technology is going to still evolve, I think, slowly, but obviously the AI introduction of things is really changing the game. I think more than the standard hardware, software. I mean, you're talking to somebody who helped put that technology on the map with Final Scratch, and consulting for Serato and helping them get that going, and working early in the scene when everyone was. I got to tell this story. I got booed. The only time I ever got booed in my life DJing. I got booed introducing Final Scratch at a DMC battle in New York.
Wow.
And I was doing some stuff, and I was mixing some things faster than you could physically do with changing records. but I was still needle dropping to show that at that time you still could needle drop, and depending on relative and absolute mode, it would respond the same way the original record would. But I wasn't changing records, and I was looking at a computer or touching a computer frequently enough, and people just didn't get it, and they booed me. And I remember looking at the faces of people being booed, and I remember like, man, I've never been booed in my life. What happened? What did I do? What did I do
Right.
wrong? And I
Right.
realized, you know what? I didn't do anything wrong. They just weren't ready yet.
Right.
That's how it goes with anything anymore.
Yeah.
People aren't ready for any kind of change, and
They're not
eventually
ready.
it's like now we all use it. Now we all use it.
But you know what's so funny? I looked at the faces of like the biggest people that were booing. Within 3 minutes of me getting off the stage, they were lined up to ask me, how did I do what I did? How did
Right.
you change this? You played that, you jumped from Nas to Lauryn Hill, and you didn't change the record, and you did Curtis Blow, like you went all these mega mixes. Like were you playing a pre-mix, or they just couldn't get it? And I explained to them, this is the future. This is, but it was so funny. The same people that were booing were the first people to stand in line to pick my brain and ask me how to do it. Where could they find it?
Of course. I remember the first time I saw Serato. I remember specifically, like, the guy was playing. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? It's so wild. It was just so wild. And I remember in those early days, no one was really messing with the relative mode. It was still needle dropping for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't think people really grasped their head around relative mode. It
Right.
was just still just
It
like
was-
hell,
it was still
playing like a regular
absolute-
record. Yeah.
Dude, the first video I remember seeing about relative mode is DJ AM, and he's like, "This is Serato relative mode," and he's doing this is how we do it, and then he's like scratching, and then he,
So I can
Needle
have three
dropping
hands or
mixtape.
something like that.
yeah, that like I was like, it's crazy.
I remember that going to NAMM and seeing Final Scratch, and I think with the M Audio one was around fairly close to around the same
Torque?
time. I'm very blurred. Torque, yeah,
Yeah.
very blurred on exactly what year, if they overlapped or if it was like the next year or whatever. But
Hold on,
I
before we
remember-
get into that a little more.
Yeah,
We're gonna do our we're gonna come back to that in just a second because we've got a bunch of questions about that. But we have this new thing we're gonna do with you, and we're kind of excited about it because it's very much us. It's silly, it's fun, it's kind of
Okay.
stupid. All right, so what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be ranking these artists. Okay, we're gonna give you
Ooh.
5 artists. Okay, and you don't know what they are, and you're gonna rank them in a 1 to 5. So, I'm going to throw out the first artist, and depending on who it is, you can put them at 1, but you also don't know who's going to come next. So you're going to rank them 1 being the best and 5 being the worst out of these
Ooh.
artists. Okay.
Okay, but I can't change the rank after I.
Can't
No.
change the ranks once you give it. All
All
right.
right, so I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to write them down, and then I'm going to tell you. How about that?
No, we can't.
You can name them all, and I'm going to write them down, and then I'll give it to you.
No, we're gonna say we're gonna throw an artist out, and then you're gonna say this is gonna be. I'm gonna put that at number 3 because you're not sure what's coming next.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
This is the first time we've done this, so
All right.
it could be a work
gonna
in
be funny.
progress.
Yeah. All right. So the first artist is Prince.
Oh, 1.
Okay.
There you go.
I like that
Sorry.
choice. All right. Our second artist is Britney Spears.
4.
Artist number 3, NWA.
3.
Artist number 2, Kendrick Lamar.
See, that's tough because I don't know who's left. We got 2 left, right?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Oh, just 1 left. So yeah, 2.
Yeah, after Kendrick, just 1 left.
Yep.
All right, so I can't move NWA up. I'd like to. Note, hint, hint. I'll say then Kendrick's got to be 2. And I'm just hoping whoever is last sucks worse than Britney.
Taylor Swift.
Oh, well, I would have put her slightly above Britney, but yeah, same company as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I got
Love it.
nothing
No.
against. I got nothing, and I don't want the the army to come after me, but
I don't think we have very many Swifties listening, so I think
yeah,
you're all right.
exactly.
No, that's great.
Nothing
That's
against Tay Tay, but honestly, I think Britney's naturally voice, like before all the craziness happened, she had a good voice, man. She was doing something different at the time, and
I think
honestly,
I
don't
think
hit
he
my
played
kid.
this game pretty well. I mean, Prince,
Yeah.
Kendrick, NWA, Britney Spears, Taylor Swift. I think that's pretty good.
I
Yeah.
probably would have done Prince, NWA, Kendrick, and then Britney and Taylor still would have been a toss up as to who's last. But
Yeah, so it came out good.
wasn't too bad. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Okay, I can relax now.
All right. All right. So now we're going to do our deep dive section.
You, Drew, and Fuse, so amazing to be on the show. It's Nick Cage, and I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I remember an adventure movie where I found the Holy Grail from World War II. Guess what it was under the stadium?
All right. There's our Nicolas Cage video, and we're going to get going in a little bit of a deep dive. And we were just talking about earlier how you were a part of creating Final Scratch, which for people listening that don't know, it was basically Serato before Serato. Do you want to kind of tell us a little more about your hand in doing that?
So yeah, I was working for Stanton Magnetics at the time, and there were two big DJs that we knew that had brought it to our attention in a private room at NAMM and said, hey, we've got this new technology. We want to show it to you guys. We think, we're interested in looking for investors and we want to take it to the next level. And they showed me a company called Intuit, almost like the tax Intuit, but very different. It was just the letter N, the letter N and the number 2 and then it. And they had this hockey puck looking thing that had RCA cables. It looked like a flying saucer almost, or hockey puck, really big. And it had RCA cables along the top. And you had to run it on a BE operating system. So that means you had to completely wipe the computer and install a completely separate operating system. So they were selling it with a Sony Vaio that had BE OS installed. And I remember seeing this and just my head exploded, just like, oh my God, this is such a game changer, because I had just came back off a trip where I was traveling out of the country and yet another crate of records that just magically disappeared. I don't know what it was. Every time I would leave the country and come back, I'd say at least once every 3 years, I'd be missing a crate.
Wow.
And that got to be expensive because I used to be a big time digger. I'd go to other countries and buy vinyl, or I'd import vinyl. I was paying $30-$40 sometimes for either an album or just a 12-inch that, no one could get their hands on because it was like DJ Cam's release in Japan that never got released anywhere else. It was like, really obscure stuff. I remember thinking this will save me so much money and not losing records and being able to travel and play more music. I just got to figure out a way to record everything and put it into an MP3 file. And I was like, great, we can do this. I'm totally behind it. And actually the two guys that were spearheading it were Richie Houghton and John Acquaviva. And we partnered with Intuit. So Stanton partnered with Intuit to develop it and bring it to a more appealing platform, for lack of a better word, because we tried to sell it with the Sony Vaio and the BEOS operating system. We tried to get, this is 2001. Imagine trying to teach a DJ how to install a different operating system so he could
You can't teach him how to work a Mac now. What do you mean?
So you understand the obstacles that we had to face, but I felt it was so worth it. And an interesting thing is a lot of people don't realize when it first came out, you'd put the needle on the record and it would play, but when you'd stop it, it would stop. So there was only absolute mode, and it was only absolute mode in one direction. And I'm not talking about the band. I'm talking about the record played in one direction. If you spun the record backwards, there would be no sound.
Oh wow.
So imagine you're trying to queue up
Right.
a
Right.
track and you go forward, you hear it, you back up, there's no sound. How do you find your cue? You'd
Yeah.
have to re-trigger it on the computer because they didn't have controllers yet. So you'd have
Right.
to
Right.
click the key on the computer to reset that cue point and play forward. And I was thinking, guys, you're halfway there. And they, what do you mean? We're halfway there. We spent all these, years and developed this and we this, that, and the other. This is it. And I'm like, no, this is not it. You need to make it 100% the same as vinyl.
Yeah.
Until you get to that, I said, look at it this way. You got a car, you can only drive forward. How do you get out of your driveway?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I spent probably about a good 3 months with the development team in the Netherlands to be able to get that thing to be able to go in reverse. Another big person on that was Jim Mazur. Jim Mazur ended up going to Native Instruments after his years at Stanton, and he was the head of DJ product development for Native Instruments for several years. And now I think he's doing like some secret code Apple government stuff right now. I have no idea. But we used to call him Jimmy Neutron. So it was myself and Jim and a few other cats that worked at Stanton at the time. We were just coming out with all these great, crazy ideas. And Final Scratch was actually one of them. And it took us probably about a good year and a half of trial and error and getting it down pat to where we put the time code in both directions. We made sure that we had absolute and relative mode. And a lot of the things you see today, everyone takes for granted. But, imagine you walking up now to your gig with your laptop and you put whatever it is and you can only go in one direction.
No, that
No
would be
scratching.
impossible.
No
Right,
scratching,
right.
no queuing, just straight trigger. Talk about
So when
button
you-
pushing.
When you finally got it up and running and you were part of that initial process, after a couple months, were you just bringing it to other people with the laptop, or you finally got it working on a Windows machine? Or
So we had BE operating system probably for about a good 6 months. That was all
Yeah.
we had. And we were getting the development on the back end done so you could go in both directions and needle drop and positioning and all that other stuff while we were doing it. But it was still BEOS for like the first 6 months or so. So everyone we were showing it to was like, okay, you buy this laptop and you can use this software. And they were like, huh? It's like, oh, I want my own laptop. I'm like, well, you could do that, but you probably don't
Right.
want to. And then we came out with a version that was BEOS you could install yourself. And then that, honestly, it was widely adopted and it was also widely rejected because guys were having a problem partitioning the
Right.
computer to be able to do that. So
I mean,
Windows came in within a year.
okay.
And then Mac OS, I'd say within a few months after that.
I mean, that's with Serato now, right? That's why people are still using 2012 laptops, is because they don't understand how to, work a computer. I mean, I'm talking shit, but at the same time, it's true. It's true, right? Like they just don't understand. They say, "Oh, it's not reliable. It's not this or that." But really, it comes down to operator error. The people just didn't know what they were doing, which is what gave it a bad rep out the gate.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, you gotta tune your computer just like you tune your car. You don't do that, eventually something's gonna break down and you're not gonna know how to fix it.
So I remember that era. I remember Final Scratch. I remember everyone talking about it. It was probably a couple years before Serato really came about, but Final Scratch, people were using it. People had jumped on it.
Oh yeah. Jazzy Jeff was one of the first, I'd say, big name adopters. That was, a multi-genre DJ that adopted it. And, at first, obviously, it was a lot of the techno guys because it was in the Netherlands based and it was European based, and they weren't too worried about the scratching or the queuing aspect of things. They just wanted the ease of having their library all on a laptop. And I gotta also point this out, guys, this is before MP3s were a thing. This is before you had the ability to put stuff on a CD. You didn't even really have the ability to do that at this point in time. So
what year would you say this is? 01, 02?
2001.
2001. I was saying earlier about that video he watched, it blown his mind. How did you guys come up with that? Or how just the thought process behind it?
So it was, I almost want to say a happy accident in that we had the mode at the time was you pick up the needle, the music stopped. You put down the needle, the music continued because it
Mhm.
was all time code in one direction. So if you bump the turntable and a needle skipped, it would skip in place and continue with the song playment.
Right.
And that actually ended up being what you now have is almost relative mode in that no matter where you are in the time placement, you're
Right.
still able to continue on. So skips, jumps, bumps, turn off, motor, needle, pick up and drop, it would always continue. Absolute was the result of trying to get it to do everything vinyl would do, which is I want it to needle jump. I want to bang on a turntable and have it skip and skip in time and
Right.
find the next groove and keep moving. I want to be able to grab it and back cue and I want to back spin as much
Gotcha.
as I could. Because at one
Right.
point in time, you could not backspin at all. It
Right.
was you literally just it would just stop.
Right.
So it's funny. A lot of people don't realize that the relative absolute thing almost was invented in verse because it started out as only one direction.
That is interesting. Yeah, that's super interesting because that's what everyone uses today. I don't know anybody that uses absolute mode, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and that's what you're fighting for, and yet I don't think I've seen anybody even touch it like that.
Right. But if you didn't fight for that, imagine how hard it would have been to translate that technology to someone whose
Right.
brain just exploded because you're trying to tell them, you mean all the stuff is not on the record itself, it's coming out of the computer
Right.
and I can only, like, well, no, I want it to be the same as vinyl because that what you have to find the common ground or the common denominator for
Yeah.
people to understand what the technology was capable of, and then you can introduce the variables. I think
So
that's
jump
what it was.
No, totally. And so jumping ahead a couple years and over time, Final Scratch, would you say just it had its issues with the computer and Serato was able to solve that like
Oh
stability
yeah,
issue? That's why
yeah,
people
man.
just
I gotta
let
hand
go.
it to AJ and the guys because we would see each other at trade shows and airports and traveling all the time,
How
and we
many
would talk.
years was this? This was like 5 years gap, right?
No, no, believe it or not, they came on pretty quick, but they were developing behind the scene. Now, okay, and purists for Serato will tell me I'm wrong. To some degree, I'm wrong, but I'm right. Pitch in Time
Right.
was Serato, and it did exist
Yep.
prior to Native Instruments and Final Scratch.
Yes.
But Pitch in Time was a recording
It's for your DAW.
DAW
Yeah.
app, right? So it was basically a
Plugin.
plugin
Mhm.
that allowed you to pitch in real time, and that's
Yep.
it. It had nothing to do with DJing.
Yep.
Serato saw what was coming down the pipeline and went, well, we already have the code for this. We can apply it and do the same thing and do it better. Now, what they did better, honestly, I got to hand it to them. They did it in DOS. They built Final Scratch on DOS, and that's like the purest zeros and ones you could possibly program because it wasn't contingent or handicapped by operating system
Right.
like Windows and Windows updating and going from Windows 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It was DOS. It was
Right.
raw. It was pure. It was
Right.
uninterrupted. And it wasn't processor intensive. Scratch Live still is, to me, still the most stable and least processor intensive
Right.
DVS out there because it's DOS at its purest. So Pitch in Time was out before Final Scratch was. Final Scratch was like 2000, 2001, I want to say
Uh-huh.
release.
Yeah.
And then CDJ 1000 came out around 2001, and I actually helped a little bit with that when that first came out. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I was working for Stanton at the time. But I had, I was actually, I think I want to say I was consulting before I started working for Stanton. CDJ 1000 was in development for a long time.
Stan
before it
was
actually
so
got
ahead
out.
of its time for I mean Stan was one of the first like turntables outside of Techniques that came out that was widely accepted, right?
Yeah, the straight 150.
Yeah.
That was another one
Yeah.
of the products I was a product manager for. It was a tank.
Yeah. I
It was
remember
a
that.
serious tank. It was heavy as hell, but it would last. I still got mine from like 15 years ago. 12, no, 20 years ago.
And
So go ahead, Fuse.
I was gonna say, so when did you transition kind of out of that role, and then what kind of happened next for you, and like what led to ultimately now you're with DOS, and how did that kind of?
So it was around 2006, I want to say. Um, I had left the company and was brought on as hired as a consultant for Stanton, and then
Mhm.
I moved to the UK. Um, and I was there I was back and forth actually. You had to come back so often because I didn't have the work permit for the UK, but I was a consultant. So the
Okay.
companies I was working for were either in the US or Asia or wherever. But I wanted to live in London at the time, but I couldn't stay there for more than like 90 days at a time or something like that. So I bounced back and forth for about a year and a half. And I was still consulting for them and another company that was came back, was called Useful Technology. It's kind of funny. Now it's like the Life Alert. Known as the Life. It got sold as that and your user profile interface that you see on all the gaming systems and all the social media, like back in the MySpace, Friendster
Yeah.
days.
Mhm.
That GUI was all stuff that was derivative of that company I was working for. So it's kind of funny. But
Interesting.
Yeah.
I started dreaming in zeros and ones, and I'm like, I want to get back into the audio side of things and the musicianship of things. So I consulted for a while. Then they hired me back as product manager and training manager and marketing for Stanton, Soren Vega, and KRK, because by then it was all three brands under one umbrella. And I did that. Had to move to Nashville to keep my job in like 2011.
Mhm.
Gibson Guitars bought those three brands,
Oh, wow.
and I saw half my dreams just decaying on the shelf. We had a
Yeah.
lot of dreams and ideas. The SCS4 was to me, one of the most, next to Final Scratch, was the most revolutionary tool
What was
that
that?
didn't get
Yeah.
developed. It was called SCS, so Sam Charlie Sam .4. And we had SCS4, and I want to say SCS1 and 2 or something like that. I can't remember all the model numbers, but we actually had the first motorized fader on a controller, the first fully motorized platter that had virtual decks on a controller, the first virtual channels on a DJ mixer, the first Firewire controller DJ mixer, and then SCS4 was the first standalone where literally you would process all of your music and put them on a thumb drive or on a hard drive and connect that hard drive to this little controller. And that was it. The software and hardware were one. So think of your Omni that's out now, but this is 10 years ago. No, more
Yeah.
than that. 15? How long have I been in DOS? 11 years? And then it was about a 3 or 4 year period before that. So like 13 years ago. Look it up, SCS4. It was so revolutionary, but it didn't get the funding and the marketing and the market penetration to keep going. But it was the first standalone DJ controller, I would say, that was strictly for DJing and gave you all the bells and whistles of effects and had the screen built in, had the touch sensitive platters, velocity sensitive platters, and all that other crazy stuff.
Sometimes those early dreamers, you know, they inspire other people, but they're impossible to get the
Yeah.
early adopters to jump on it. So
Yep.
so yeah, I could understand how that just kind of went. And I've been going to NAM for so many years. I actually feel like I saw this, but I can't put my finger on it. And so over time, and this is the beauty of just being having your finger on everything, you were able to transition over to was it to DOS around that time?
So yeah, I saw, like I said, I saw my dreams decaying on the shelf with Gibson. They weren't really funding or putting R&D into the Stanton
Right.
thing. They only really wanted KRK, which was the studio monitors that everybody and their grandma knows.
Right.
And it was that kind of dissolution of the brand of Cerwin Vega just kind of sitting there and not doing anything. Stanton just kind of sitting there not doing anything. And I'm just an active, creative person. I'm like, I just can't sit here and watch this slowly die. Plus, I moved to Nashville and I wasn't able to gig and DJ as much. And it was great for my daughter and my family, but
Mhm.
I was missing Miami nightlife. I was missing the scene. I was missing being able to go out and play clubs. I felt I was missing a lot. So I found a way to move back to Florida, and that was with
Yeah.
DOS Audio in 2014. So I
Okay.
started with them in one position, basically like a regional sales manager, then national sales manager, then VP of sales and marketing. And I've been here. It's been a long journey. It's been an
Yeah.
enjoyable journey, but not as much R&D, which I enjoy. I mean, I am influencing some of the products and, helping create like three-way columns, changing the crossover points. It's little things that you as a DJ, how important it is to be able to drop the crossover point as low as you will need to on a sub.
Right.
But the average engineer is like, oh, we make this, guys use it at festivals. They're using external processing. What do you need that for? And I'm like, no, you want the
Right.
sub to go as low as it can physically go without destroying itself, so that you have more room for the other frequencies to be played by the other devices. So
And I guess I want to ask, just while we're on the topic, for the listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with DOS Audio, but what they could look forward to now, like specifically like your top end speakers. And
there is quite a few, depends on what size and budget you're looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a touring production festival guy, there's a series called Aura, which is bananas. It's got all the bells and whistles you could ever imagine, to where it's got RFID sensors in the speaker. So when you actually assemble the speaker and you put it in the air, if someone put number 1 as number 6, it'll automatically readjust itself in the software.
nice.
And that's crucial because you have a full array of speakers that are in a single
Right.
line, and you need each of them to do a particular job to cover a particular area. But they
Right.
all work as one big uniform vertical column almost. And
Yeah.
that's the line array principle, or line array theory. So when you mix and match things, you disrupt that flow of energy and that audio beam. So being able to beam steer digitally or physically, all of those wonderful things you can actually do. And then cardioid is another big thing a lot of people are not familiar with, but they don't realize how important it is. The cardioid will keep the club from getting tickets from the grandma or the neighbor
Yeah.
behind the club complaining at 2 a.m. Hey, this is too loud. You're making too much noise. Well, if you have
Right.
a cardioid system and you properly place it in the room, you can have all the energy and the focus on the dance floor where you want,
Right.
and you have less spillage and less contamination outside of your designed or desired area.
Right.
And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing with cardioid. A lot of times it's just, stage, front of stage, out to the audience. The stage itself is pretty quiet. Behind the stage is pretty quiet, but you can actually do a 4-cornered cardioid system to where all the energy is going in, and you have less of that low frequency spilling out behind it. So
Yeah.
those are the kind of things. So there's Aura is the name of one system. You've got Vantech, which is a really high powered system that does have Bluetooth. You've got Bluetooth streaming wireless of speakers, and you can also do Bluetooth control of large deployments of systems, which is really cool to be able to have all of that, having 16 speakers on your phone and saying, okay, these 4 need to sound like this for this area and have this delay. These
Right.
4 need to sound like this for this area and this volume for this delay. And then my main left and right, okay, I'll control this, that, and the other. So that's called DOS Link. That's another really cool technology you can look up. And you can actually use that with our new column system. So the column system, it was us and another company, LD, that actually came out with the three-way columns first. And
Right.
now everyone's buzzing about, oh, three-way, three-way.
That's the hot topic.
That's the hot topic now. We had that over a year ago, but
Right.
it's just one of those things that you've got to get it out there. You've got to market it. You've got to constantly send the message to people and let them hear it. I mean,
Yeah. That's
people
the
always
big
ask,
thing.
what's the difference? What's the big difference? Well, okay, you know the big difference? Take the same car you got now and try to get on a highway with a three gears.
Right.
You got 3 gears. How fast you think you're gonna go? How long you think the motor is gonna last
Yeah.
if you're driving on a highway and you only got 3 gears? Now take those same 3 gears and make it 6-speed.
Right.
Now, how much faster can you go? How more efficiently you can burn the gas? How less you're going to destroy the engine because you've got more gears that are not producing the same RPM. So it's just kind of like that kind of analogy to people. Okay, so the more ways of actual frequency coverage, the better. And that's
Yeah.
true. As long as you don't interfere with each other.
DOS has been so active with all the DJ shows, which is just awesome to have. We walked by the NAM and you guys had outside. You guys the booth was
Yeah.
popping. I know you're going to be at Mex and you got party going on there. It seems to be at every show. And I guess what I was just going to say is maybe if you want to just mention anything that you got coming up for some of these shows.
Yes, keep an eye out. We're at MEX and we're going to be doing other events, but I've got some other surprising news coming up as well. I can't let the cat out of the bag, but keep a follow and like. I hate to say it, terrible on social media, but I do have an account and I do check it quite often. I just don't get a chance to post as much as everyone else is. I'm too busy to post. I don't know how to say it, but DJ _ B-side is my social, and then there's at DOS Audio USA. But be sure to follow and like. I'm going to have some very, very exciting news for everyone at MEX
Awesome.
and very shortly after.
Okay, yeah. Mex is coming up, and then you guys always rock one of the big parties at DJX. And which we're gonna hopefully come for. We're not done.
I heard
yet.
they were booking Drew and Few show. Maybe I'm kidding.
Hey, man, anything's possible.
We're not done yet. We want to keep it pushing. You want to do top songs here, Fuse?
Sure. One of the segments we always do, and I don't know if we mentioned this to you before, so sorry. If we didn't.
I'm familiar with it. I know you're talking.
Okay.
about.
So we
I've
just kind of
watched it.
do.
I'm one of those stalkers. You never know. I'm
all
there,
right.
Perfect.
So we do our top picks, and if you just want to, rattle off some songs that you like, that work for you, or even if you have a theme behind them, that's cool. We're gonna roll this video.
Hi, Drew and Fuse. It's me, Billy's Eyelashes. You might need to turn me up because I'm usually whispering. I'm here to let you know we've reached the point in the show to go over music picks. DJ, whisper me your top songs you play at your shows. One of them better be a whisper song for me.
Oh, so ridiculous. Yeah. So any songs or anything you kind of want to hit us with?
Just a side note, did you see how sad she was at the Grammys? She lost. Beyonce won, and then they panned to her super quick.
Happy.
I mean, who is going to be happy, right? Like, I mean, it's you put all your heart and soul into something. It's just kind of messed up. Anyways, sorry. Side note.
It's all good. All right. So your team Billy Eyelashes. You help her.
I am not Billy's Eyelashes, but I think there's Beyonce has better albums than her country album.
True. Yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah.
So top picks. Oh, that's so tough for me. I enjoy doing a lot of live edits. I gamble a lot when I DJ, and I love surprising people. So I do a lot of live mashups and live edits, especially with Serato stems. To me, that's been the most recent thing that's been a game changer. Like people are on the AI train, but Serato stems is still yet to be, I think, fully adopted and understood how much you can actually do with it just live,
Yep.
let alone from a recording or an editing standpoint. But I like doing a lot of live edits and crazy stuff. So it's kind of hard for me to say because my brain automatically starts going to, all right, so I mix up Belle Biv DeVoe Poison with whatever the Bad Bunny song is that's in the same BPM range. Because you'd be
Right.
surprised, like the 2 or 3 songs in that same BPM range are usually in a similar key.
Right.
So it's really easy for me to edit and do that live. But so this is top pick. So this is going to be like songs that I always, there's one I always, it's weird. I'm superstitious and I always start off with the superstitious Moombahton remix.
Okay.
The Stevie Wonder superstitious Moombahton remix. And I typically, it's funny, I don't have sets, but I almost do a sound check with that song everywhere I go. I play it, I run out, go listen to it, make sure the system sounds good, and I run back in the
Yep.
booth and I get going.
Hey, that's a great recommendation to anybody, is to always sound check with the same song.
Right.
I try and do it with The Weeknd. Actually, it's one of the one I use.
Okay.
I feel it coming. I
Okay.
just always sound
Yeah,
check with that
it's
song.
exactly. It's got a good dynamic range. It's got some stereo
Yeah.
dynamics. It's got kick. It's got punch. It's got vocals. It's got, and if you got a muddy system with the whispery vocals, you don't actually always hear everything. So yeah, that I'm with you on that one. I
Daft
get
Punk produced it.
it. So now plug your gear. Come on, you got to plug the gear. That was your segue. Come on. You missed the cue, man. Come
I
on.
know.
That
I
was
know.
a
I know.
alley-oop.
I dropped the ball on that one.
All right.
So
So
we got superstitious. What else?
what else?
Um,
Yeah, just some
okay.
go-tos. Like
Some go-tos. Actually, this Luffy Last Night track I love. It's more of a like a, I'd say a tech house, like EDM banger.
okay.
There's a couple of, there's one, Black V-Neck is the name of the group. There's a To the Floor, you know that, oh goodness, Waka Flocka, No
No
Hands.
hands.
Mhm.
So they took samples of that, and it's like a really good track. I
Black
like,
V-neck. That's a great name.
yeah, Black V-Neck, yeah, like this shirt, and it's
That's all he wears.
I always joke about, like, anytime you hear something like that, it's like, oh, they're playing the side stage at Coachella, but Black V-neck.
they probably are. They probably are playing the stage at Coachella. I wouldn't be surprised. They're really dope. I like what they're doing.
I'm gonna check them out. Okay, that's a cool one, and that's 3.
Okay. Yeah.
There is that, and this is so like trendy of me, but I just like the way the track is produced, and I like how it's received. The Move track that
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like
Adam
Afro
Port.
pop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That track is very well done. Like I can't find anything wrong with that track. And I'm super critical of audio. And I'm also super critical of like poppy trendy stuff, even though I have to play it. I don't always have
Yeah.
to like what I'm playing
Oh
sometimes.
no,
A lot of people
Facts.
don't realize that, you know. A lot of shit we play it you don't necessarily like, but we have to because we know that's what people are expecting. But that's a track that I enjoy playing, and people who haven't gotten into that sound or that style always run up and ask, "What is it?"
right,
And
right.
people who know it love it and sing along. And it's a beautiful song, and I just like the way it's well produced, and it's kind of very poppy, Afro house elevator ish for some people, but I think it's a good track. That track works in so many different realms. And then I'm kind of picking, like, I think weird. I'm trying to pick up more obscure stuff because I mean I could always go with the
No,
this
of
edit or
course.
that edit or the Michael Jackson, and I could always pick like the Bruno Mars and the stuff that
That's all
Um,
right. Some people like when they listen, they like the affirmation that other people are playing the same stuff, you know? So,
right. And that's what I'm saying. I got nothing against that, but I like pushing the boundaries and going outside the box, even though I do have some pretty cool edits. And that's the one thing. If I'm gonna play like a mainstream track, I like playing like an edit that keeps the original essence.
Amen.
You know, there's
Mhm.
like some stuff like Nick Bike is a really cool edit guy, and I think his edit of the Rocksteady, Aretha Franklin, really
Yep.
clean, straight on. Most people don't even realize it's like redrummed and that kind of stuff. But that's the kind of stuff I like as well. But there's another track, Nine Toes. You might know.
No, but I love the name. Again, coming out
Oh,
with
man.
strong with these names.
Yeah, like I say, I'm all over I'm in Miami, so it's a different vibe here because you could get away with stuff here at somebody's wedding that you probably couldn't get away with in most other
Right.
cities. I think, you know, like Dallas is a good example. Like Dallas is pretty diverse. It's a big city, but it's not to me as international as Miami. So I get away with I think a lot more here, even at corporate events and stuff. I think it's Finder. Hold on, I'm gonna have to. Sorry, my typing. You're gonna have to hear clicking for a minute. I think it is Finder. Yes, the name of it by Nine Toes. Ninetoes.
Okay.
all right.
Kind of
I've
got
never
a
actually.
calypso Caribbean house type vibe.
I will check it out. I put it on the list.
All right. While we're talking about music, real quick, the one thing we need to ask about that we haven't asked yet, if you could just real quick, you said you have production credits with George Clinton and DOC. Tell us a little bit about those.
So there's an artist out of Dallas. Funny enough, I mentioned Dallas. There's an artist out of Texas, and Dallas in particular, named Erotic D. And a lot of people don't know Erotic D, but he's been around since the DOC was writing stuff for NWA. And a lot of people don't know how influential and important the DOC was to
Oh, yeah.
NWA. I mean, a lot of people, they all know. You ask me Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg, I'm going to tell you the DOC.
Right.
Because Cube wouldn't have been the writer he is today without the doc being there and pushing them and doing something different. To
Yep.
me, he helped all of them really become better. And had he not lost his voice, who knows where the DOC would be.
Right.
So Erotic D was working with Doc way back in the day. Doc went to LA, started working with NWA. Erotic D was working with them as well. And it was almost like a Texas funk style that Erotic D had. And for a while, I was just kind of like a studio rat. I would just hang out in the studio and, you know, jump in here and there if somebody needed some cuts or somebody needed some help with some drums or some whatever or instruments, because I used to play a lot of different stuff. And I would just try to add a layer, thinking outside the box, like, hey, let's try this, let's try that.
Right.
And the time we spent in the studio there, I had no idea that a lot of that stuff was ending up in other people's albums. So I'm basically working in the studio with Erotic D. He brings in an artist named Jamal, and he's doing a track with George Clinton, and the track is called Unfuckwittable. And there's about 3 other tracks that we were doing back then. And I wasn't, just like when I was with Stanton early in the stages, I wasn't really trying to do it to get my name on things or to say, hey, I did this or I made this or whatever. I was just happy to get my dreams out. That's what it was for me. Was I love this so much. I just want to be a part of it. It's special. It's different. I got paid. Sometimes I got credit. Sometimes I didn't. But that wasn't as important to me as actually just being a part of it.
It's
So
that early
there's that
stage
track.
It's the early stage for the majority of us DJs, of us older DJs, is why we got into it in the first place. Is
Right.
for the love of it. It was never about the money. And,
Right, exactly. There
you know,
was not that much money back then.
right. And I think that's what saddens us about the newer kids coming up is, you know, how much shit we did for free just because we wanted to learn.
Yeah,
You know,
like your
or just
chops.
just to even do it.
So
we
yeah, there
got
was
two-
that, and then there
Oh.
was Erica Badu was actually in a group. A lot of people don't know if you're not from Dallas. I lived in Dallas for a while, by the way. I
Yeah.
guess that is
took it-
probably what's missing from the chronology. Originally
figured.
from New Orleans. Early on, I moved to Dallas. I was there for about 7 years, and coming from a musical background out of New Orleans, I just had a different approach to what was going on in the music scene in Dallas. And I started like underground drum and bass party, and I was opening up for like Jamiroquai and like
Hell yeah.
really obscure stuff. But
Yeah.
to me, it was just what I loved. And I had like an underground trip hop night, like a weekly at a place
Wow.
called the Aqua Lounge. And I would do music and listening parties for Quango Records and Ninja Tune before anyone even knew who the hell Ninja Tune or what Ninja Tune was.
Right.
And we had like some pretty decent acts come through, and I would open for them, and I would help curate the night and do like music parties, because I was a buyer of music. I was a record buyer.
But
That's
before I got into DJing, I was producing trip hop. Believe it or not, I don't think I've ever told you that, Fuse, but I have some old trip hop shit that I used to make.
all
I
right. So
can't
you're
wait
gonna
to
have
hear
let me-
those.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully, it's as good as those VHS tapes you sent me a few months back.
No, it's not bad actually. It's very out there, but
Yeah, now I want to hear it.
because
they
For
put
those
me
of you
somebody
who
who
know
was
VHS
big.
tape, you actually had to put in a VCR, and you had to turn it on and hit play. It was the old Netflix, basically.
No, but like you're naming a lot of the artists where that's what I did like back in the day. So I
Yeah. I mean,
I
we
love all that
we
stuff.
do DJ Cam, DJ Crush, Kruder and Dorfmeister. Before Mark Farina was even really like, he was doing that before he was doing the house stuff.
Yep.
So that, and I was doing that in Dallas, so I had a slightly different ear. And Erica used to be in a group a lot of people know called Erica Free, and it was a producer MC named Free. So he was Free, and she was Erica Badu, and they had a very unique sound. And I used to do a party with a DJ called Daddy J. And a lot of people know JT Donaldson from Dallas, from the house music scene. But JT used to be a part of the same crew with Daddy J. And we used to do a party at the Rehab Lounge. And the Rehab Lounge was in Deep Ellum. And we did a weekly there. And then diagonally down the street, across the street, was a place called Reciprocity. And that's where they used to do like the reggae and underground and spoken word and slam poetry type stuff. And that's where Erica and Free came through those doors. So we used to like cross-pollinate back in the day. And the DOC is originally from Dallas. So it just all kind of came full circle. So there was a lot of little production things I did here and there. And then I would do like little bootleg remixes and just kind of put them out, press them and put them out, because I just wanted people to play it. This is before the digital era. So there was a lot of that going on.
I'm about to pull that up. That sounds interesting.
Drew, what are we doing next here? We'll play this video. We call it The Sauce. It's advice that you would give to a younger DJ, advice you wish you had your younger self. We'll play the video and we'll come back to it.
All right.
The name is Bootsy, baby. And this shout out goes out to Drew and Fuse, all the way from Cincinnati to the LBC Bobble. Yeah, I was told you guys are quite the chefs, and you got a delicious sauce that you cook up. Ooh, and it drips that swagoo and breaks down the recipe. Yeah, and you giving up the pig, cause it's funky. As in good, that is, finger funkin' good. On the one by the power of the one. Yeah, without that, there is none. So get yours and be in tune with the one that loves you.
We haven't had Bootsy on in a minute.
Yeah.
I love Bootsy.
You're talking about a big fan of Bootsy. Like a lot of
That's the
people don't
man.
know, he used to play with James Brown.
Yep.
And so I'm like, seriously big fan of Bootsy.
All right. Well, hit us with any of your advice or anything like that.
That's the one thing I would say is be open, think outside the box, be humble, and don't be afraid to learn and try new things. I mean, that's it's not just something I would say to my younger self. Um, I would also say if you feel that strongly about something, stick to it and practice at it and try to be the best you can be at whatever that is. And don't second guess yourself, but be creative, think outside the box. Don't just do what everyone else is doing. Do you, and the rest of the world will eventually gravitate and catch up with you or come around to you. I'm going to segue back to earlier. We were talking about Calvin Harris and why I put him above Tiesto, or I actually put him at like my top 5 of all time dance music producers, because he stuck to himself. I mean, you listen to the Girls track that he did.
Yep.
Track is bizarre. It's bananas. But it's got such a retro vibe, but that made it timeless. And
Right.
that's him singing on the track and producing the track. And, he just kept doing himself until eventually the music scene kind of, I think, caught up to where he was going to.
Yep.
Right.
And that's kind of what I would tell anybody is, but be humble, learn, as much as there's always still something to learn. I am the biggest advocate of, as much as I know, I don't know half of what else is coming out there, or half of what else is could be learned to help me improve myself, not just as a DJ, but just as a person, as a human. A lot of people get complacent and we get stuck on, oh, I already know how to do this, or, oh, I'm already good at that, or
Right.
I don't. Why do I need to change? This is working for me. I'm a big advocate of always learn, be humble,
Yeah.
always learn, and push yourself to do better. There's always room to improve. I get called a perfectionist a lot of times, and I battled with that for a long time, not just in the industry, but as an artist, as a DJ, as a producer, as a product development person. And I've come into the realization that there's nothing wrong with striving for perfection. I know there's no such thing as absolute perfection. I know that. And as long as I know that, there's nothing wrong with me trying to get whatever it is to be as good as it could possibly be.
Right.
And that's kind of what I would say. That would be my sauce to put on the
like-
wings or put on your food or whatever.
No, it's
I
good.
like it.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
it too.
I'm impressed by just how much you've moved. I mean, I think both me and Fuse have both lived in the same place our entire lives, So I always wanted to live in the UK, or you even mentioned Amsterdam. These are things where in the next couple of years, who knows where I'll be based. But yeah, it's inspiring
get
for
out
me.
there and see the world. I was lucky enough to get a trip as a teenager. Early on, it was like, do you want to go to summer school so you can be in the A track at this all boys Catholic high school, or do you want to go on a summer vacation with your church to Europe? What would you choose?
Right.
Europe.
Europe. Yeah.
So that's what I did, and that totally blew my head, totally blew my mind.
Right.
I'm from New Orleans. 99% of my family and relatives were born and lived there, and would not have ever left there if it wasn't for Katrina.
Right.
You think about it, they were born there, they lived there. Some of them, most of them are still there. Only a few of them actually left. And they only left because they were kind of forced out.
Right.
So, in a lot of places, you see people that are they are born here and they know they're comfortable there. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not against that, but I think also you learn so much more when you can see other cultures and see how other people live and how other people think. It gives you perspective. That's the way I look at it, perspective.
No, I agree. I travel a lot for that, but I've definitely wanted to push myself to go live somewhere else. So that's
But at least you get out and you see. I mean, that's the whole key. It's the perspective. You can take that perspective back to you and live differently.
I still
I've-
think it's different living somewhere else. That's
It
that.
is.
Living in, yeah. But one of the things I always say is like the more I've traveled, the more it's opened up I used to want to just not be here at all.
Mhm.
And the more I've traveled, not only domestically, but foreign travel,
Mhm.
the more I see little bits of every place in my hometown, and the more I like it here, because it's like reminds me of all the places that I've been, and I can
Perspective.
see it.
That's perspective, man. You
Yeah.
kind of got to get out to see in a different light, to see, okay, well, you know what, this is actually, either not so bad or this is cool, or hey,
Right.
maybe we can change this or we can do that. And to me, it's all about perspective. Perspective is the key, and I think when more people have perspective, they appreciate what they have and they appreciate each other. And I think a lot of times people just get stuck in their own little box and they're like, no, get away from me. No, don't talk to me. Like, it's like somebody coming up in the booth with the phone in your face, like, hey, no, get out of the booth. Step out of the booth. Like, this is my safe space. So I get that to some degree. I don't want somebody just barging in, jumping in my face, but
Right.
I want to just add is once when I was traveling a lot and realizing it always made me want to move, right? And then I came home and I saw, where I live is pretty fucking cool. I'm going to start doing tourist stuff in my own city. And that was enough of an eye opener to just be like how much I love my city. And just doing really, like, we took the TMZ tour one time, just doing like straight tourist stuff. But one day, I've never been to Miami, and so one of these days I need to make it down there. I know.
I've been here. Or then when we got to bring you and get you either some mofongo or the rinconcito, the Cuban place, the Dave's
DJ
Cafe.
DJ Mofongo needs to go get some mofongo.
For sure. Before we wrap here, I know you said you're on social media. Also, when this comes out, DOS will probably have already had a pretty big announcement. So make sure you're following DOS Audio. If you guys are listening, follow DOS. Tell us where they can follow and find more about you.
Okay, so I am DJ B-Side, also known as Darren Young, DJ_BSIDE. And then on Facebook is just DJ B-Side. I was early enough to that one. So it's just DJ B-Side at Facebook, and then DJ_B-Side on Instagram and I think X, and what else is there? I don't do Snapchat. And
if you want to mention DOS Audio, maybe?
Yes, and DOS Audio is DASAUDIO USA. That's the U.S. division based in Miami, Florida. And we also have DOS Audio. It's just at DOS Audio is the corporate headquarters and factory, which is based in Valencia, Spain. So for those who did not know, DOS Audio sounds German, but it's from Valencia, Spain.
Well, you guys' booth is always popping and they throw great parties. So make sure you go see them at DJX. So there it is.
Right. Awesome. That's going to wrap up our time here today. So thank you for being on the show with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much,
and
guys.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.